Yeah. So, very good evening to one and all, and welcome to our live session. I'm Zainab Kadri, Media and PR Executive at 9SAM, and your host for today's live session. Before we begin with the live session, I would like to wish you all a very happy new year because this is the first live session we are doing after the new year. And I hope that this year is as exciting and as fun to you as it is for me. And I'm so sorry, I'm having a little bit of cold and flu. So if there are any disturbances due to that, just bear up with me. Okay. And yeah, New Year's are always beginnings, new beginnings. Okay. And it is a universe way of telling us, okay, that there are new opportunities awaiting for all of us. So I'm sure we all are waiting to grab those opportunity and make the best use of them. And also, as we all know, 9SEM is India's first and only skill based digital learning platform, providing skill based learning to the engineers in the core and the non IT industry. So, as you all know, we come up with our live sessions on every Sunday. So, today we are here with our Meet the Engineer live session. And this session is extremely, I would say, motivating and inspiring also because you'll learn the value of passion over here. Okay. And when I say passion, we have all read quotes about passion, and we have seen people who follow their passion and who have succeeded. And it's always been there in our head, right? That your passion will make you successful and all those things. So it is true indeed. Okay. And stories like this and people like this who really turn their passion into and work for it, okay, and turn it into their profession, and they are really happy about it. So with this inspiring stories, this motivating people around us, there's a lot of positive energy which goes around. So I feel really amazing and I feel really good that I host sessions and I am on a platform. I get to share a platform with amazing people like this, okay, who have worked for it, okay, and who have gone out of their ways. And they are not just ordinary people, they have something really really different from all the others out there. So they have set up very high standards and extraordinary principles to all of us, and we need to look on upon them and follow our dreams and our passion. So that became too much of life coaching. So I will now want to invite the two entrepreneur duos. Okay, so we call them entrepreneur duo because they are two sisters. Okay, and they came up with this startup together, and it gives me a lot of happiness that they are women. Okay, and it's about women empowerment also at the end of the day. So I would like to invite Nishita and Nikita Bilair Singh. So they are from Bhubaneswar. Okay, and they have a very inspiring story, and I wouldn't disclose it to you all right now. Okay, I would welcome them on our live session. Yeah. Hi, Nishita, and hi, Nikita, and welcome to our live session. It
Hi,
gives me
thank you
immense
so much
pleasure
for
to
having
have
us
you
here.
with us. It gives me a lot of pleasure to have you with us over here today,
Thank
both
you.
of you.
Thank you.
So
Thank you.
to
It's our pleasure too.
so so to begin with, I would want to say that both Nishita and Nikita have a background from business management. So they have pursued their bachelor in business management, and Nikita has also done her masters in brand management and marketing communication. Okay, and both of them have come up with something really innovative. Okay, if you see their innovations, we would think that they are into all technology background, but then it is the passion which made them follow this. So we'll know about their success stories from them itself. So yeah, over to you both.
Right. Thank you so much, Zainab. That was an interesting introduction, and it's a pleasure to be here. So, just a brief about me. So, I am Nishita Balyar Singh, the co-founder and CEO for Nexus Power. And at Nexus, as we say, we are building a future beyond lithium ions. So, we are actually building bioorganic and biodegradable fast charge batteries from crop residue for the electric vehicle industry, specifically focused for the two-wheeler and three-wheeler EVs for now. Eventually, we'd also proceed into four-wheeler EVs and commercial space. So, having said this, it all starts from identifying a problem. So that's how it begins. And identifying a problem has nothing to do with your background, your technical know-how, your interests, nothing. So it purely depends on how aware you are of your surroundings, how much you try and understand and look at scenarios around you, and that's what gives rise to the understanding the need in the society, right? So that will be my small little brief, and now maybe I'll pass it on to Nikita to tell you a little more about what we do at Nexus.
Hi. Good evening, everybody. I am Nikita Balyar Singh, and I am the co-founder and COO for Nexus Power. And of course, a little brief about my educational background has already been given. But apart from that, I've also done a little bit of courses from IIT Roorkee and IIM Bangalore. So these were a little bit of scientific courses basically, but they're certificate programs, and I had to do it actually to understand the field a little better because when you follow your passion, you obviously have a few roadblocks that you have to cross or you have to jump ahead of. So I think these courses were those ladders for me to get over the roadblocks that I had. But as Nishita mentioned, that we are looking at a future beyond lithium ions. So what we are actually doing is we are making EV batteries out of crop residue. uh, EV is electric vehicles for the ones who don't know, and crop residue actually is burnt out in India. In northern states, in the winters, you see there's a lot of pollution that happens because they burn this residue that remains in the soil basically, and it really causes a lot of pollution. It causes it almost ends up being zero visibility, and so it's a lot of a trouble. So what we really thought is that we need to change something there, and because we wanted to make batteries in the EV sector, we thought why not just try to mix these two thoughts that we have, that lithium ion batteries are not sustainable because they harm the environment, they are toxic for people itself as well, and more than that, there are also a few more problems. Your lithium ion batteries are expensive, so your electric vehicles are also expensive. In turn, people don't prefer buying it because of course the affordability is a big question here. So we thought, why not mix these two thoughts that we have and try to bring something that can solve at least two environmental problems at the same time. So that is where we tried to study how beneficial can this curb residue be, and we ended up with this solution that we could actually use that residue to make batteries for electric vehicles. So I wouldn't be very open or wouldn't talk about it in too much of detail because these things are always into patents and intellectual properties, which we have to preserve until they actually get into the market. But all the compounds and elements that we use in making these batteries are completely biodegradable and are sourced from these crop residue, taken up from the northern part, or even currently we're doing it from Odisha itself, so it's available abundantly in the country. And apart from that, yes, it's more efficient and effective as compared to lithium ion batteries. So these batteries tend to charge faster, they can last longer, they are biodegradable, they have a higher energy density. So there are a lot of problems that we ended up solving one after the other once we started doing research in this side. And that, I think, is probably something that makes us really very happy that we'd seen a vision of transforming the automobile industry in not just in India, across the globe. And that is where we wanted to focus on how can it be something that people look up to or can adapt quickly to in the future, because electric vehicles are not very common at the moment, and we really want them to come on the roads and be something which is very common, and not kind of a fascination that look, that's an electric vehicle. It should be something that everybody's driving. And for that, these few concerns in the batteries had to be addressed too, and maybe that's how we just started on.
Okay, that was really amazing. Actually, when we went through your story and on various media platforms, and we read about you doing you having such a nice vision and doing something, okay, for the environment. Uh, it was like amazing, okay, that people do tend to think out of the box. And it is really nice that there are so many aspects to it. Your innovations just not focused on making batteries, but then there are so many other aspects to it, and at the end we need to think about the environment because that's the only place we will be left with, right? So that's really amazing, and I'm so happy that we have you here with us today, and people like you who have such a great vision. You all are surely great examples to the youth and all the other aspiring people.
Thank you so
Right.
much. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Should I begin with the presentation right now?
Yeah, I think we can proceed with the presentation. So I'll give them a quick brief of what we are doing in little depth, and then we can proceed further.
Yeah, yeah, sure. Just give me 2 minutes, I'll just start with the presentation.
Sure, sure, no issues.
Is it visible?
So yeah, I mean, I can see the screen, but not the presentation. So if you could just put out the presentation.
Yeah, I have put out the presentation. I think it takes some time due to the network issue.
Okay, okay. So basically, we can see the screen of the right. So the presentation is not visible yet. So I think if you could just reshare the screen or something like that. Right. So that's visible. If you could just make it full screen, and then we'll get started. Right. Thank you. So, like I said, we're at Nexus. We're building a future beyond lithium ions. So, in one crisp sense, that we're actually building bioorganic and biodegradable, rechargeable, fast charge electric vehicle batteries out of crop residue. And by residue, how the way Nikita explained, it's actually the stubble that remains after the crop is harvested. Next. Right. So, it is like I said that it always arises out of a need. So, me and Nikita were just commonly discussing that the electric vehicle industry has been in talks since 2011, 2012. So, if you look at the auto expo that happens every 2 years in Delhi, even in Dubai, even in Detroit. So, since 2010, they've been the manufacturers, companies have been displaying electric vehicles in all the auto expos, but they have never come on road as much in India. Globally, there is still some space for EVs. There are still EV owners, but in India, you see them in the auto expo very frequently every 2 years, but you don't really see the cars on road. So that's when me and Nikita were just discussing to understand why, even after so many concept cars are being showcased, electric vehicles are being showcased by companies. Why aren't they coming into the mainstream market as a commercial launch? So that's where we try to understand that maybe the infrastructure is an issue, and then there might maybe other concerns. Maybe the public is not wanting to accept electric vehicles so quickly, and then we realized that the major concern was actually with the batteries. So if you compare an electric vehicle with a diesel or petrol IC engine vehicle, so the EV takes about 4 to 6 hours to attain a full charge, and that battery from 0 to 100% takes about 4 to 6 hours. If you compare that to a refueling time of petrol or diesel, that's hardly 5 or 10 minutes. It's like you enter into a petrol station, take hardly 5 minutes and 10 minutes maximum. You recharge you refuel your car and you drive out. So if you compare the time difference, it's huge. And in the same space, you look at the range that a IC engine vehicle gives you. It gives you pretty good 350 odd kilometer range, but I mean for a four wheeler. And if you talk for a two wheeler, so it's at least 100 odd kilometers. The two wheelers give you a mileage of 60 70 odd kilometers per liter. And if you look at a electric vehicle, it is hardly 60 70 odd kilometers in a full charge. So you compare the space, 6 hours of charging and hardly 70 odd kilometers, 60 odd kilometers, and 10 minutes of refueling and about 89 kilometers per liter is the average mileage. So if you look at the difference, it's quite a lot, and that's one of the major reasons why electric vehicles are not coming into the Indian market as a mainstream product. And besides that, you look at the battery, the lithium-ion battery becomes expensive because lithium is not available in India. It is available. It is imported from China, from other countries like that globally, and that's the reason why the product gets expensive. So once the battery is expensive, automatically the vehicle gets expensive. And having said that, we all know lithium has toxic hazards. It's very harmful for the environment. It, leads to a lot of toxic gases, or it even damages human health and living organisms. uh, and in fact, if you look at the life cycle of the entire battery, so it takes about 7 8 for a complete life cycle of a battery. So post the life cycle, these batteries are not even recycled. They are normally left out in the atmosphere to give out the toxic gases and degrade the environment. So these are the major concerns that we discussed about, and then we thought as to what we can do. and how can we do it? Maybe, can you substitute lithium with something else? And then you, out of interest, you get into research. So you realize that there are a lot of people who are already working on alternate technologies. I'm not very sure if people have heard, but there's a company in Bangalore which works on this metal air concept, which is a very commonly known concept now, the aluminum air battery concept. And so we did a little bit of research on that, and then further dug into the space to understand, how this space can be addressed to. So next, so that's where we came. If you just go to the next slide, and then yeah, so that's where we came up to this solution, which was Nexus, and the solution actually came in. So we were actually going through a lot of these books and understanding the situation and everything. And so our grandfather is basically has been from the biochemistry space. Our parents have been into science, so they're both doctorates in their life sciences fields. Both our parents are they have their doctorate in life sciences. Our grandfather had a life science biochemistry specialization, and his degree or postdoctoral whatever qualifications. So one of his biochemistry books actually had a statement which spoke about the material that crop residue holds and how it can potentially benefit the electrolytes. So that was just a random statement, and somewhere it clicked. It just gave us a small little kink, and we thought, let's work on this. And that's where we began, and that's where we've come down to so far. I mean, there was just one statement which led us to start the thing, and since then it has been pure trial and error, pure research. We've done a lot of theoretical research, understood the concept, done a lot of practical work, tried and failed, tested. So a lot of progress, and that's where finally the battery came up. Which presently we have a working prototype, which we recently tested in a two-wheeler EV, and it successfully delivers to a couple of these parameters that we want to address to, and the rest the research is still going on. Next. Next slide. Yeah. So basically, this is more like the parameters that we're talking about in terms of comparison with the lithium-ion and lead acid battery. So pretty specific in terms of how it is better than the other batteries. In a nutshell, the price also comes down. It gets less expensive. Reason being that the raw material is cheaper as compared to lithium, and because it is locally sourced, automatically the price comes even further down. The charging time is reduced to about 35-40 odd minutes that we've been able to come up with promising results in the previous tests. And like I spoke, that the range will also be slightly better. So we are looking at at least 120-25 kilometers range. In a country like India, where normally a two-wheeler runs for about, on an average, 100 kilometers per day, you cannot expect to have an EV which gives you hardly 65 odd kilometers. It has to go beyond 100 at least. So that's where we've been trying to be able to have a with range of about 120, 125 odd kilometers. And if you compare that to a lithium ion battery, which is hardly 65, 70 to 85 kilometers range. So that will be about 20 to 30% higher range than what a lithium ion battery gives you. And the material is fully biodegradable, like I mentioned, reason being that it's the components are all picked up from crop residue, so there's nothing that degrades the environment. And if you look at the recyclability of these batteries, so since everything is natural, and because they are coming from concepts of sustainability, which is it's called biomimicry and industrial ecology. So the it's very cost effective when it comes down to recycling, and if you leave to biodegrade also, it will completely be fine in the environment. So there is no kind of toxicity at all. So that's a brief comparison of how Nexus is better than lithium ion and the lead acid. So lead acid is not a comparison because eventually we are phasing out lead acid. So our main focus is to be better than lithium right now. We're already better than lead acid, and lithium is anyway better than lead acid. So our main aim is to be better than lithium ion. So indirectly or ultimately better than lead acid. Next slide, please. Yeah, so like Nikita mentioned, so a lot of patenting and IP structures that we need to look into and be careful about. So we presently hold a provisional patent, and we are applying for a complete patent in the next month, or the like in a couple of months, which will include the entire battery technology. So the provisional patent we hold is already for the technology, but now the patents that we want to apply for are for the technology process, the arrangement of the cells, which is very unique and core to us, and a little bit of the BMS and the BTMS. So by BMS, I mean the battery management system, and the BTMS is the battery thermal management system. These are two core systems that go into the battery. So a little bit of patenting for that. So we'll be applying for multiple patents, and besides that, Nexus is already a trademark applied. I mean, the application is filed and we should be registered maybe by June, July. That's the targeted timeline. And besides that, we're also looking at copyright. So the main aim of the copyright is to have the entire detailed process and the manufacturing of the battery copyrighted. So what happens is in that case, we'll be sure of avoiding all possible duplications in terms of manufacturing process of the battery. So that's the main aim for all the IP that we have in space. So a lot of thinking and research goes into what kind of IP suits us, what we should look into, what we should avoid, and that's where these four have been identified, and we'll be focusing on this. So besides this, there are a lot of other IP strategies as well which can be worked upon, but the best suited for us are right here as mentioned. Next slide. Right. Having said that, that's almost coming to an end of what I wanted to speak about. So this is a little bit of early recognition that we have, and one of the major highlights was being awarded by the Governor of Odisha, His Excellency Professor Ganeshilal, for the innovation and the entrepreneurial conceptualization that we've done. And besides that, we were also awarded by the CII, which is the Confederation of Indian Industries, and we were awarded as Innovative Enterprise of the Year. So besides the awards and the little bit of recognition that we have, we also have a little bit of media highlights. Something with Indian Express, with STPI. So STPI had highlighted, and that is also one of our major achievements. And besides this, we've had a lot of other recognition as well. Very recently, we had Your Story, which was I think which went across a lot of viewership, and we also had a couple of YouTube channels covering the entire product technology. So that's all in all. That's about Nexus, and so I'll be open to all questions, and I think me and Nikita will be happy to answer any possible question that comes up from the audience as well as from the 9SEM team. Right. So that's what we basically believe, and we have it in all our kind of slides or presentation that we follow. So it's basically it's more like understanding what sustainability and sustainable lifestyles are. So it's just buying a product which is it is tagged as green is not called sustainability. It's more like an unshakable commitment to a sustainable lifestyle. So by this phrase, you could actually understand that just electric vehicle and buying an electric vehicle is not sustainability. You look at the entire process of manufacturing the electric vehicle and the process of manufacturing the components that go into the electric vehicle. So if everything is zero waste and if everything is in in terms of in lines of sustainability, that's where you're actually catering to sustainability. Otherwise, these terms are just terms, right? So that's our main concept, and that's what we believe in. So we uh, all in all, we are actually trying to address these concerns and we're looking to move towards a sustainable lifestyle and a greener planet. And we'll both me and Nikita, I think, will do our best to contribute to this cause as much as we can all through our life. Right. So that will be all from both of our end, and yeah. So that's it. So I think next. Yeah, so that's it. So thank you guys for patiently listening to the entire product and the concept. And over to you, Zainab.
Am I audible?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, okay. That was one hack of a presentation. It was really nice to know in detail about Nexus Power and your work, obviously. And yeah, there are a lot of questions which our audience have also dropped in the comment section. But before we proceed with those questions, I would just ask some questions from my side as well, and then we could maybe proceed from questions from the audience. Okay, so to begin with, I am a little very curious to know that you both didn't have a technological background or an early interest into these things. Okay, because you both have been into a different. So, what led you to develop interest for something like this, coming up with
See,
an innovation?
it's not that you don't have your. It's not that you do your courses because your interest lies
Yeah.
in that. Sometimes
Mm-hmm.
you do courses because you know that there is something that you already know and you can handle. So I would like to learn something new, so I switch. So it's not that we never had early interest. So like me and Nikita, right from our schooling time, like from third, fourth standard, fifth standard, we've been crazily fond of cars and aircrafts and machines. To an extent that we in sixth, seventh standard, we've always been around machines, and we've been, in a school, you try to build products and say even smaller machines, something like an automatic alarm for a letterbox, something like automatic battery operated car, toy car, robotic vehicles. So it's been there since from the very beginning of our life, of our age. So we've been into this space of aircrafts and machinery and automobiles in the very, very beginning. And not that the interest never came in there. So the interest is always there, to be very honest. But that then there comes a time when you have to take life choices as to
Yeah.
what you want to understand. So there's the space where for me at least personally, I really thought that these interests of mine, the cars and the machines, I have already been pretty much equipped with, and it is
Hmm.
not something that I will not be able to acquire if I don't study further in that space.
Okay.
Now I need to know something of business because from the very beginning, this entrepreneurship has always been into us, and the aim has always been into entrepreneurship. It's never, I mean, we've never looked at a space where I would like to do a job for a couple of years, then come back and switch to entrepreneurship or something like that. So entrepreneurship was always there from the very beginning. So that's a space where you want to learn. It's like, okay, now I have learned enough of the cars and the machines, and I know that I understand that space very well. So I can any day come back and reconnect from there, and I know I'll not faulty. I'll not fault out there. So now I need to know something about business and the economy, so I could connect the both and come up with something that is in line with my aim, which is entrepreneurship. So that's where the business management space and the basically the business management and the commerce and the economy came in that space. So having said that, even after it's like you're a management graduate and it's a pure passion and interest which has always been into this space, and now you want to venture into something which is technology, pure technology after your graduation in commerce. So it's not that only passion drives you, so you have to equip yourself. So
Yeah.
at least, yeah. So both me and Nikita have technically post our graduation. Nikita did her masters, post her masters. So we took up plenty of these certificate programs from IIT Roorkee, IIT Kharagpur, IIM Bangalore to purely understand those technical aspects of electric vehicles, because that's where our aim was. We wanted to then venture into the batteries. So I have personally also done courses of a master's certification in hybrid electric vehicle design and analysis, which includes a lot of technical courses, including Python, including Arduino, including ANSYS, Simulink. So they're all 3D modeling platforms. Python is purely into machine learning. So
Yeah.
so you need to understand the designing, the chassis building, battery thermal management system was another course that I did. Battery management system was another course. Integrating the batteries with the electric vehicle was another course that I came up with. So it's not that it's only interest and it's a little basic level and then commerce and then switch. You keep equipping yourself with more skills that align with your interest, and then end up in the industry. So had we not come up with these certificate programs that we've done, we might not be, might not have been able to be so polished in the industry we are in right now. So it's basically it's your passion which drives you, and for the passion you acquire skills which will help you stand in a space where you can compete with the other existing players. So that's basically where the education comes up, and I think Nikita will tell you better about her drive and why she, how she came into this entire space.
In fact, I would say there's nothing very different from what Nishita said. But one thing that I believe is that there's learning is there everywhere, and you can grab things
Yeah.
from, right from anything below the sun. So it all depends on you what you choose to do initially or what path you want to take. So there are a lot of people who do engineering and then they get to do an MBA and then they do a
Yeah.
management job. So the cycle is very different, but if you have an aim of something in your mind, you have to acquire different skills. So maybe this was unusual for us, but we took a little reverse cycle. We did management first and then we got into learning the technical skills. Some way or the other, it was very similar to a lot of people, the way they study. And honestly, I would say it was not very difficult to grasp things because, as Nishita mentioned, we've always been interested in that. So we kept ourselves in touch with that industry. We kept reading on the internet. We kept interacting with people, with professionals of that industry. So we were always in touch with that field. So it was not difficult to do a management course to understand economy and finances, business in proper senses, and then come back to put yourself into technology or try and grasp about technology, because anyway things are evolving. So what I learned today is already outdated maybe 5 years from now. So you have to always keep learning technology, and that is why it does not really make much of a difference if you are not a certified BTech engineer. You can always keep learning through the internet, through books, through people. It's always open.
So your interests right from the early age drove you towards, sorting out ways to get through this, right? So you all had
Yeah.
a vision right from your early life, and you all tried to, sort out ways like how you would go about with it. Because
Yeah.
in the end, right now you have a complete package of the knowledge, I would say,
True.
and you are
True.
learning more in your
So
startup,
I mean,
obviously.
there is no end to learning. I mean, every day you learn something new. So it's not like a
Yes,
complete
yes,
package.
yes. No
And
end to
I mean,
learn.
it's a complete package which has no end to occupying, bringing in more learning and skills. So it's a ongoing process. It keeps upgrading itself.
Also, when you do what you like, basically you enjoy your life, right? Or your interest, if you are doing something in your interesting field, then you really tend to enjoy that work.
That's true. That's very
True.
true.
Very true.
So let's move on to the next question. Okay, so this is basically a small activity kind of thing, since you both are sisters. So just that you both could tell qualities about each other. Okay, just
Mhm.
state some qualities when it comes to maybe entrepreneurship, since we are right now focusing on that stage. So yeah.
Right. So for Nikita, if I have to give a few qualities of why how we kind of complement each other. So Nikita is more like a visionary, you know, and she understands the entire space. She goes in depth in understanding a subject. If supposedly if there's something that we're looking at, so she'll make sure she goes into the core of understanding the technology, understanding trying and experimenting how we can build that space. So that's one thing that really complements in terms of setting up this entire space and the company, because it's very important that you have deep understanding of what you're actually doing, and that covers all spaces. It can be technology, it can be even for a say for a commerce graduate opening up a restaurant, for example. So you go to very clearly understand the restaurant industry. So it's not like a layman's job to enter in and start a restaurant. It's not very easy. Starting up has never been easy, right? So with Nikita having those traits, and uh, also because maybe she's done her masters which is core into marketing communication and brand management, so she also has that bucket full of ideas which could position a product very differently than something that a normal man would do. So her capabilities of portraying a product very differently are amazing. So that's how that comes in very beautifully into the entire organization structure.
ये तो बहुत तारीफ हो गई भाई आज. You know what
Yeah,
happens with
I normally
siblings
don't say
is,
that's true.
you don't really discuss these things. The company may, what do you like about me and what do I like about you? But these are things that we just observe. So I'm glad that you like these things about me. Um, Something that I really admire about Nishita throughout the entire, our life actually as sisters, or not just as co-founders, I mean, but as sisters and as siblings, is that she's very workaholic. There's nothing that she would say I don't want to do, or there's nothing that she'll be like, "Nahi, tu kar de." And in fact, I think most of my friends, my school teachers, everybody know this already. So there's no secret that all through my school, my assignments were actually done by Nishita. So, but yeah, I used to have a little, I used to copy a lot of work that she used to do. So I was not a person who was too excited about doing work myself. So I was a little lazy in those terms. But Nishita is a person who can just keep working the entire day and she wouldn't get tired. And it's not that she is very possessive, ki, it's my work and all that. So she can work for the entire community and she will not let anybody know that she's the only one working. And that, I think, is a tremendous quality for somebody who is getting into their own business. And apart from that, she is a fantastic financial person. You cannot mess with her when it comes to finances and accounts. Basically, she is that good, and that is why I just keep away from that entire part in the company. So that typically when it comes to balance sheets and PL statements, she tells me, obviously we discuss, but I'm like, तुझे समझ में आ गया तो बहुत है. I do not want to put my head into that. So thankfully, she knows those things so well, because if I had to start up something all by myself, probably I would have messed up with finances completely. Though I am a commerce graduate all my life, I was not very good in accounts. I was always more interested in business studies and management and marketing. So thankfully she's there and she's very good at that financial side and she's a workaholic. So just goes very well for us together.
That's good to know that you both complement each other really well. Probably so. So yeah. So my question would be to Lisa. So you also have a media background. Like you have also done. So what would you say about it? Like there are specific things you like into media, like more in media, because even I'm from a media background and I wanted to know this thing from you.
Media, in the sense, I was very inclined to films
Hmm.
personally, and film studies has been one of my majors in my masters. But having said that, a media school teaches you a lot of things, and not
Yeah.
just about the course, but also survival skills. So you learn how to deal with different personalities, different mentalities, different schools of thought. It's very different from any other course, I would say, because I had done my graduation in management. So management tires you, but they make you work in a proper pressurized manner and to meet deadlines. With media, you are more of a creative person. You have to learn how to deal with more people, and you're not much into deadlines, but to convince somebody to even act in one of your films is probably one of the toughest things you can do in a media school. So there are different skills that you learn, and more specifically, I was into films. I was not much of a media PR person because interests are different. So, but then yes, it has really the media school has taught me to position or place something differently. I have learned how to be more interactive about things through that exposure in media that I've had, and of course, needless to say that I do have I know people now in the film industry I can interact with because the projects, assignments, and even the dissertation that I had to do, I had to interact with celebrities literally to finish my thesis and research. So it just grows connections for people, and it feels good to be in good interaction with people that a normal crowd really looks up to. Somebody like a director or filmmakers. It's just a good feeling that I have spoken to them personally. I have pictures with them and stuff. So just a very different experience.
Communication and interaction sorts to be one of the most important things. Okay, so let's move on to the next question. So, also, when I was researching about you both, and knowing the different kind of things you both be interested in, so I've seen that you both are motivational people and you talk to the youth and kind of motivate. So, what would be that one piece of advice that you would like to give them? And also, during COVID, and all of us have, lost a touch with our academy. Just a
Right. So I maybe certain network issues, so I missed certain portion of the question. If you could just repeat it quickly, I'll.
Yeah, yeah, sure, sure, sure. So, when I was going through your profile, I have found out that you both are motivational speakers. So, right now, what would be that one piece of advice you would like to give the youth in this live session, maybe?
Right. So, I mean, it's not like you are a designated motivational speaker or something. It's something that so basically, what on a personal front, what I do is just share my experience, and if that motivates somebody, so that's more than great big for me. So I'll be really happy and honored if my experience can motivate somebody. So that's where the space begins. So a little piece of advice for maybe students, aspiring entrepreneurs, even technology enthusiasts. So you should never forget your passion, and you should never leave your interests aside. Come what may, be always close to your interests. And if there's something that you're not liking, I would say it's rather important for you to come out and say it, then keep it to yourself and keep cribbing about it within yourself and spoiling your health. So in turn, you stress about it, you spoil your health, you end up not performing very well, and then you end up screwing up everything. So Instead of doing that, it's much better to come out and talk about it. Believe me, there is nothing better than communication. If you could just, and it can be anybody. It can be your superior, it can be your parents, it can be your say soulmate, or it can be a very good friend of yours. So if there's something that you're not comfortable with, come out and talk about it. You cannot expect the other person to come and understand with your gestures what you want to tell them, and you cannot really live all your life internally craving about it and not bringing it out. Ultimately, you'll damage a lot of things, not only relations but yourself as well. So that's one piece of advice. And second, like I said, please always keep your interests and passion very core to you. And yeah, I mean, like you said that maybe with passion, if you work with something that is your passion, you will maybe you'll be like, it'll be really great to work in that space. It's important to understand and highlight what exactly you want. So for students who are just switching into grad schools, maybe even 11, 12, assess what you exactly want. Just don't get into that bhed cha jisko kehte hain hum log कि I got amazing marks, so now I want to get into science or commerce or whatever. So don't get into that bhed chal. Try and understand what you actually want. So if you like, we had a grading system in our 10th, and then I mean, we've been very good scorers all through our school. I mean, 10th, even 11th, 12th, so we've been very good scorers. But that doesn't mean that I follow the entire herd with the kind of choices they want to do. There was a time when I really wanted to do mechanical engineering as well, but then I realized that that is a field which you can even acquire uh, with time. You don't need to go to doing a specialization. And till then, the commerce space was not really understood very much, because all through your school, at least till 10th, they don't give you commerce ideas at all. So you don't know accounts till 10th, you don't know economic till 10th. Economics is very basic in 10th. So you don't understand commerce at all. So, like I said, so it's very important that you understand your interests. At the same time, take a wise choice for yourself. Do not end up screwing everything. I mean, don't do a course because others are doing it. I mean, like say 11, 12 और 10th में होता है ना बहुत कि चलो मेरे फ्रेंड्स जो है वो पूरा ग्रुप इस सेक्शन में जा रहा है तो मैंने वहीं जाना है, so I opt for that. Don't do that. Understand what you want and follow your heart. And follow your heart, but don't forget the mind. Keep that. I mean, it's like taking calculated risks. So I mean, बेवकूफियां भी नहीं करनी है और बहुत rigid भी नहीं होना है. Maintain a proper balance in it.
I would just like to talk about entrepreneurship as a perspective, because obviously Nishita has told a lot about career choices. So when you decide to become an entrepreneur, the first thing I think that a person needs to understand is that it is not something that happens overnight, or you're not going to end up making the best of things in the first go itself. It is going to take a lot of time, and it is going to be something which is going to drain you a lot of times. So for example, today I am looking at maybe achieving a particular goal, and that doesn't happen for me. So that is going to break me emotionally. Obviously I was aiming at that, but it didn't come to me. But that doesn't mean that I pack my bags and I look for something else. You have to be persistent about things, but more than that, you really have to be very, very strong emotionally. uh, you have to understand there have to be highs and lows, and you have to deal with them. So entrepreneurship is not just about making a company and earning big, or having a lot of companies to invest in your company and they are running behind you. It doesn't happen that way. The amount of hard work is tremendously more than what it will be for anybody who's living a life of an employee. For a founder, it is very, very different. So as an employee, I have to maybe just focus on my majors in the company and report to one or two people maximum. As a founder, I have to look at all those employees who have their own majors. So I have to know all those different majors in a company. Along with that, I don't have to report to anybody. So I need self discipline. I need to know that I have to control my things myself, and I have to make valid and good decisions. So these are skills that people need to have and need to acquire over the years if they aim at starting up in life. Specifically because, as I said, there are a lot of highs and lows. If there are huge highs, there are terribly bad lows as well. So if you get very happy about achieving something big, you have to stand stable when you are on shaky grounds, basically. So have a lot of emotional strength. It is actually, entrepreneurship is all about how emotionally stable you are as a person. It is not just about putting in your brains or being technically very sound or being very good in management and everything. It is purely about how much of perseverance you have as a person, and how emotionally stable you are. If you can keep dealing with the roadblocks, you can, be on the ground when you've hit a new high. It that is going to make you reach your goals sooner and in a much better position than you would maybe if you are not very stable as a person or not very composed as an individual. So it really makes a big difference to be very, very emotionally stable.
Just a quick add-on here, like what Nikita said, she just reminded me of this one statement. She spoke about self-discipline, right? So both of us and our mom, we were just randomly chit-chatting one day, and there was one statement that she gave us, which I really thought, it definitely should be followed. For people who really want to have a successful life. By successful, I mean you're happy with what you're doing, and you're being able to achieve your targets. That's success for you. That's what defines success. So he said two things. First, you start your day at a particular time and you end the day at a particular time. Don't mess with that, which is pure self-discipline. In normal layman terms, when people talk about business, they said office आप एक टाइम पे खोलो और एक टाइम पे बंद करो, and that time should be fixed every day. I mean, if it is 9 a.m. it is 9 a.m. If it's 10:30 it's 10:30. If it is 12 p.m. it is 12 p.m. but it is 12 p.m. every day. It is not supposed to be आज 11 बजे, कल 10 बजे, कल आज टायर्ड हूँ तो आज 2 बजे. ऐसे नहीं होता. You start at one time, you end at one time. And the reason why this comes up is that you have 24 hours. You need to understand how to channelize those 24 hours. So if you start at a particular time, you got to close by a particular time. Even if you have plenty of work to do, you leave it for the next day. It's okay. The world is not ending. People are not dying. Anything that you are not able to achieve today, leave it for the next day, but do not extend your working hours. If you mentally have planned that I will close my office at 6:30, you leave office at 6:30. Whatever the work might be, leave it for the next day. Don't mess up with your balance of working hours. And at the same place, it is linked to another statement that mom gave, where she said you maintain a balance in your life. Give equal number of hours to work and your personal life. Do not mess up both of them together. I mean, it is not supposed to be like you're spending 18 hours, 20 hours in work and then you have no time for yourself and your family or friends or whatever. So as a human being, give proper balance to both sides, and believe me, you'll be very happy and successful in life. I mean, you'll be very composed. Trust me. You give equal time to your work and your family, your friends or whatever, recreation and work. Believe me, you'll be very composed and happy.
So this also does not give you the discomfort of, that you're leaving out something, sacrificing something. You have been, it's like you're getting the exposure to all the things. It's not that you sacrifice your family or you sacrifice your work for certain things. I think both of you really put that all these things very well. Made the career choices, being persistent, disciplined, and just not following the people what they do. And I hope all the audience out there really do take all these advice, because one's experience teaches others. So it's like you experience and to tell people in your. So I think I am done with my questions, and let's move to our audience. So I'll just put on some. Uh, so yeah. So the question goes like, what is the first thing you both decided to have your startup? What do you think about it?
Right. So thank you for asking this question. So basically, when we actually thought of starting up, that was sometime in school, just post our school actually. So we just got done on the 12 boards, and there was time for the college to start. So there was about 3-4 months gap, and that's where we started off. And we started off because we realized that there was a gap in the Odisha market in terms of marketing purely. So basically, if you look at North India, if you look at Mumbai and spaces, so the companies were spending a lot of amount on digital marketing on Facebook and all of those platforms. Uh, Apps and websites, but in Odisha particularly, there was not much of a transit into digital marketing mediums. They were more into the hoardings and the leaflets and all that space. So that was the gap that we looked at, and so that time if you look at the coding languages, so you don't need much of a. So it's not that you need to understand that in courses. So over the years, I had acquired skills of CSS, PHP, HTML, even Java. So even React, JS, and AngularJS. So a lot of these couple of softwares, I mean, coding platforms that I had come across and I had acquired over the years. Not that it was a part of my course, but it was out of interest that I acquired MySpace. So that's what we started off with. It was like just a casual startup to just interact with the environment professionally. So that's what we, like say for additional pocket money with your college. So that's what we started off with initially, but then eventually switched into sustainability and purely got into. When we want to get into the batteries, prior to that, we are also working with sustainable systems, which are more like a substitute to heat pumps, substitute to geysers, sorry, which heats water. So there, your consumption level and all, you save about 20 lakhs per annum in hotels and all. So we've done a couple of these smaller, pocket money odd jobs to understand the market and see how you can enter in and what the right space is. The answer to your question. So the first thing, actually the first thing that we decided was we want to do, or we want to get into entrepreneurship, and we'll want to get into a startup. But it's not like you decide on something and then enter into the space. It's more like you see a need and that's what you get into answer to. So that's been the small short journey of starting up with a couple of website and apps for pocket money, then eventually moving into sustainability, and then full fledged into batteries because we saw a need there and we saw a space of rapid expansion and scalability. So that's these basically that's how the entire space has come down to Nexus.
Okay, so let us move on to the question. What is the temperature measured for the battery?
So I think would Nikita like to answer this? More technical. Nikita is basically also looking into the technical side. She looks into the core of the product. I am more on the periphery. So I think Nikita, I leave it for Nikita to answer.
Yeah, thank you. Well, as I see, basically there is not much of a difference that we found so far, and we are operating it in temperatures that are similar to the temperatures that the lithium-ion batteries can operate in. So, because so far we want to, we don't want to create a space where the electric vehicles also have to change their designs to adapt to our batteries. So we want to make it very similar to lithium-ion batteries so that it is just readily fixable into the available EV designs or available electric vehicles. So far we've not really tried to test the maximum ranges or the range that this battery can hold because there's a lot of R&D that's still going on. So currently we are working on making them more efficient in terms of their charging time, in terms of their range that the batteries can deliver. So eventually we'll be doing these tests. Eventually we'll leave out all these numbers also in the market. But at the moment, all I can say is that it is very similar to a lithium-ion battery's, uh, a temperature bearing capacity, and it operates in similar ranges. Though we haven't faced any heating issues so far in the battery itself, which is a concern in the lithium-ion batteries. But this is preliminary research with regard to the temperatures that this battery can sustain, or it goes up to. We are still looking up to doing more of a research and development into this side, and that is why I do not want to commit to any number at the moment. So give us some time, 2 3 months in the time we'll probably come out with numbers as well, because we are not looking at having them commercially launched immediately. We are looking at a span of 2 years from now. So we are going to take these 2 years to develop this battery and make something so perfect that it is just readily accepted by everybody. So we're going to take that time out to understand all these different parameters eventually, slowly and gradually. We don't really want to hurry. So I will not commit any numbers at the moment.
Right. So I'll just give you a small subtle hint here, maybe. Like if you talk about the maximum temperature that the battery can operate and battery holds. So basically, the battery perfectly operates at room temperature, 5 degrees up and down. So that's the temperature range of the battery right now. But if you look at how far it can go and how much heating can happen, so a lot of heating is not expected because obviously the battery thermal management also comes into place. So we'll be comfortably able to clog it at room temperature, 5 degrees up and down.
Forward. Uh, next, uh, the future scope EV battery to
I
There
think
is
I
a lot
think
of research going on, I think, I would say. All right, Nishita, go ahead.
no, after you. So after you.
All right. So as I was saying, there is a lot of research going on. There are a lot of institutes, a lot of companies across the globe who are looking at different battery technologies, different kinds of fuels, biodegradable material. So you can't really say what the future belongs to, or what exactly is going to take over the market. But every person is doing their bit, and I believe, at least in the near future, it is going to be EV batteries. Eventually, if there are people who can come up with biodiesel or biofuel, as we see the research is on, that might take it up in the future. But what happens is that right now there is a shift to electric vehicles in the market. So at the moment, immediately it is not going to come down to biofuels. It is going to gradually move towards electric vehicles, towards EV batteries, and then probably it will again come back to the IC engine vehicles with biofuels. Because eventually, yes, people will start claiming that even EVs are not sustainable, or they are also polluting the environment. So again, it's a cycle; it goes on. So currently, it is going to move towards EV batteries. Then it will probably come back to biofuel. Depends on when biofuels come into the market.
So,
Okay.
as you know, also it's a lot of push from the government for the electric vehicles. So the government itself is not really focusing on biodiesel or biofuel as of now. And having spoken about biodiesel, we still don't have a biopetrol version. So ultimately, what do you do with the petrol vehicles, or maybe how do you establish that space? And the efficiency also has to be looked into. So also because the government is purely focusing on EVs, they are pushing EVs. They have a target of being all electric by 2030. So it's a lot of so at least for the next 10-15 years it will be EVs and EVs. Biodiesel has its own market in a space. The commercial EVs are still a concept to be spoken about. So maybe you can always look at a space where both exist together. So maybe you can have two-wheeler, three-wheeler, four-wheeler EVs, but you can have commercial like trucks and buses which are biodiesel operated. So you never know what the future holds for us. But for now, at least for the next 10 years, if you look at the two-wheeler or three-wheelers, I think it will purely be EVs only. Biodiesel will always might just have a space with the commercial side.
Okay. Considering the time limitations, I'll take up one last question because there are many questions in the chat box. I'll just pick one question right now, the last one. Yeah. So, what were the challenges you faced while coming up with this innovation?
So so we are into R&D, and we are continuously trying and testing, and there's always a trial and error. So there's always a scope of doing something, it not living up to the expectation, then you're switching the entire thing, trying something else. So a couple of major challenges. First was to understand the technical side. Coming up from a management space, you want to get into something in your interest. So we acquired those skills. And second, if you look at the startup ecosystem, so when you talk about being a management graduate with certificate programs, I mean, with sort of management graduate into a technical space, so you really need to equip yourself with a lot of technical skills. Otherwise, you might not, the confidence does not come on you as much. If you talk about industry experts who are even mentors or who are even investors, to be very frank. So investors also might not have a lot of faith in you if you're not technically equipped as well, even if it is your interests and you're out of a management background ultimately. So your technical skills are important, no doubt. They have to be polished if you want to be into a technical space. So that's one of the major challenges. Second, in R&D you are trying and experimenting, so you're also burning out a lot of money, and you're trying to build a product which presently you are not very sure as to, when you're starting up, you're not very sure as to how well it will succeed, but you're still looking at spaces whether you can or you cannot. So that's a space where you're dicey of being able to spend money, not spend money. So you're burning out money, you're burning out time, energy. So it's a lot of effort that goes into a lot of R&D and building a technical product which is for a futuristic market. Futuristic, by futuristic I mean an upcoming market. So I think that's also a challenge that we came up with, where every day you end up thinking, should we यहाँ से आगे बढ़ना है, नहीं बढ़ना है, क्या करना है? And then you also
Mm.
have continuously you have in mind that you're bootstrapped all this while. Why not try for some investments? Why not try for some grants? So that also runs around in your mind continuously. So there are a couple of challenges that come in, and then you also have a certain challenges when you come down to hiring a team for yourself for the first time. I mean, you might not be very well equipped, so then you have to put on the shoes of an HR executive. You got to put on the shoes of a technical graduate. So a lot of these different spaces, you got to put on a lot of hats and think that way. So that is also a challenge that you will come across eventually when you're trying to do something which aligns with your interests. And even if you're an engineer, these challenges will still come up.
Okay.
I think I'll just like to add on one line or two. The first challenge that probably we faced, both of us in fact, was maybe to tell people that we do not want to sit for placements and we want to start our own company, because
True.
it is not accepted very wholeheartedly in teachers, within the teachers, within friends, and certainly when your group of friends come up with the idea that we'll all work together and stay together in a different city, then personally when you feel that you have to make difficult choices, because it's always very exciting to be staying with the friends group, working in a different city. It's fancy. And here you are, we've been born and brought up in Bhubaneswar. We started up here, so we're going to stay here for as long as we live. So you have to make difficult choices there. So it is not very wholeheartedly accepted, and it is not something that people are going to be very happy about, especially in the Indian subcontinental area. So there are plenty of people who come up to say that say the benefits of jobs to you as compared to an entrepreneur. There are plenty of people who come up to give you failure stories of startups, basically. So as a person, there is a lot of dilemma that you go through. So the very decision of sticking to the idea of entrepreneurship is probably the first challenge that both of us have faced, because there are times when you think, maybe let's look up for a job first, and then come back to doing your own startup or something. But if you can really convince yourself that no, this is what I want to do and this is what I will do, come what may, that is the first challenge itself. Just convince yourself to stick to your decision, and then I think as things go, you want to get into a startup, you have to recruit people and so on and so forth. So they keep coming as challenges, and you also tend to overcome them with time. You start learning as well, so it just moves on like that. But I think you have to really convince yourself that stick to your idea.
Well, thank you, Nikita, for being about all the challenges you have faced and written a lot more. And not that easy. And yeah, so we'll just wrap up with this session. Although there are many more questions to be had, and before I would also watch a video. I cannot play it over here because it's audible on YouTube. So I'll just put up in the audience can check that out. And it was really lovely having you both. Uh, and knowing so many beyond Nexus Star also, and Nexus Star being one of the amazing innovations. Uh, and it was really nice. And thank you so much for accepting our invitation and on behalf of the 9 team. I would like to extend a very big thank you to both of
Thank you. Thank you so much. In fact, it was a pleasure being here and discussing our experience, the entire work that we've been doing. So thank you so much for having us, and thank you for understanding that you can also explore this domain.
you. Yes,
So
yes.
thank you so much, and I'd like to thank all the audience who've been listening to us so patiently for so long. And I hope we've been able to at least inspire you with regard to using electric vehicles more than IC engine vehicles. And thank you so much to the 9SEM team as well for inviting us here. And we've also discovered a lot of things about each other actually, personally, here through this interaction. So I'm glad we were here and we were able to interact this way. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Nishita and Nikita, and all the
Thank,
other.
Thank you.
thank you.
That was with the live session with the entrepreneur duos, and I hope you all had a very nice time because I had one, and they both are really inspiring and motivating. And yeah, you can all reach out to us. If you have any of your friends who have come up with innovations, you can drop in a text on our official account, or also comment on our posts. And thank you so much for being an amazing audience, and you all motivate us to do better each and every time. Also, I would like to thank all the people who participated in the giveaways, and who also appreciated a lot about our previous video with the 9SEM team. So yeah, thank you so much. And we at 9SEM are very proud to have an audience like you, and keep supporting, and yeah, take care and stay safe.